No.
So I'll go ahead and start sharing my PowerPoint and we'll just start walking through it. Um, okay, so welcome to Club Treasurer training for, like I said, for District 37. Um, Tonight we're going to do this usually takes less than it takes an hour or so. Um, what the responsibilities of the treasurer are. Talk about the club accounts and budgets. Um, for a briefing on member dues. Um, Obviously, the other side of the treasurer is making payments to people, and what some of the financial policies of your club should think about. Again, some of these are my opinions, some of these come from other people. And what kind of financial records that you're responsible for keeping as a treasurer. Okay, there we go in a nutshell. So, you should try to attend all meetings and board meetings if possible. Prepare the club budgets, and this can be done with a committee or as part of uh, the way I do it in my club. I do a preliminary budget based off of last year, basically, and then bring it to the club. Um, Setting member dues. The reason I say setting is because you do have a portion of dues that are just your club, if your club so desires, and make payments and maintain financial records and report to the club and the board. And of course, Uncle Sam. Okay, so Lions Club International mandates that you have two separate, you technically don't have to have separate bank accounts, but you have to account for them separately. A lot of clubs do two separate bank accounts just because it's easier to do that way. So it makes it simpler sometimes. Uh, Administratives are funds used for running the club. If you have a PO box, we have a cell phone. Um, you got to pay dues to international and the district. Those kinds of funds. Um, all income in the administrative account comes from your club members. Basically, although there is another way to make administrative monies, but typically dues, tails twisting, and things directly from your members. They pay their portion. They pay their dues to through your club. So that's the other. Yeah. Um, the expenses paid, international dues, district dues, printing, postage, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, we have a cell phone, we have a post office box. Those are some of our expenses. Your administrative funds can be transferred to your activity accounts, but not vice versa. You cannot transfer money out of your activity into your administrative fund. And I'll explain that here in a minute a little bit on the other option of for admin money. Anyway, activities used for public projects and grants, uh, gifts to gifts to organizations, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so public fundraising projects, that's all public money. And Lions dictates, and you can pay for direct costs of fundraising. In other words, let's say you do a raffle, so paying for the raffle tickets is an acceptable expense out of activity. So those you can pay for your out of activity account. The thing you have to one of the things you have to be careful of is, let's say you got a club member who needs some eyeglasses. One of your things is eyeglasses, right? So we should be able to get our club member eyeglasses. You cross over that line because it's a club member. So technically you cannot use activity money to benefit a club member, even if it's a necessary need like eyeglasses or something. Um, and you cannot transfer to admin to help pay your dues or things like that. So pretty straightforward. Yes, somebody.
Yeah. What about like highway cleanup and following highway cleanup? We give a dinner to everybody that's participated. Is that got to be out of admin, or can that come out of activity?
Technically, you know, since I would say it needs to come out of admin. Um, although you're doing a public service, so I mean it's a gray area.
Okay,
The
that's
other
what we've
side,
been doing.
the other side of this stuff is nobody's going to look at it, but it's up to your integrity of your club. I mean, we always take great pride of being able to tell people that give us money or buy our raffle tickets that all of our money that we take in goes back out to the public to benefit the public. So that's the other side of it. Um, so this is just reiterating that um, money for raised through public project or activities cannot be used for administrative expenditures such as compensating for club dues. So sometimes you got a club member that's struggling, can't afford stuff. You might want to pay their dues for them. Well, that's great, but you cannot pay it out of your public funds. So, uh, but you can, and I don't know if I got a slide for this. So the one thing that you're allowed to do in under the admin, the other thing you can do, you can do something where you're getting paid as a Lions Club to do something. So we work at a gun show here in Kalispell, um, where they pay us X amount of dollars to help them at the gun show. It is not a Lions function. We're not, as long as you be careful about bragging, we recommend, um, you can wear your shirt, don't wear your vest for that kind of stuff. But there are ways to, so these type of these type of activities, the money can go into your administrative account. You are allowed to do that because it's not an event you're holding. You're not saying that you're not getting money because your public is giving it to you. Another organization is paying for your service. So that's how we can help fund our administrative account because it can get pretty tight if you're only just taking your dues and your tail twisting money. Um, and that's how we build this up. We put that money into it, and then we typically every the year we transfer all the extra money out of our administrative uh, into our activity accounts, and then we give it away. So you can do some of those. You just have to make sure that it's not an event you're putting on, or it's not something that you're doing, but it's. I know that in Great Falls, they used to get paid by the fairgrounds or not Great Falls, Missoula clubs used to sell raffle tickets at the Grizz games, 50-50 tickets. They used to let the local organizations partake of that, and the money didn't go to them other than help them. They got paid something to put it on, so you can find ways to do that. So now, I know pretty much everybody on here. Your clubs are big enough; they all probably have a budget. You guys all have a you all have budgets.
Oh,
Yes,
so to speak, we don't carry a budget.
that's where that strategic plan comes in really nice.
Right. So the biggest reason the nice thing is have a budget. There are several reasons. So um, again, it's nice to have a budget to know what you're doing, what you're planning on spending, where you're going with it, everything else.
Kind of do have.
Um, again, it would be a separate budget for admin and activity accounts. So you'd have and So you budget for your expected income. So we're gonna sell X amount of raffle tickets for so much money, and we're gonna get money for this, and then you budget for the
We
money.
do track everything.
Right,
I do, well, I built a spreadsheet that shows all of our projects and all of our administration stuff. And we keep track of what that's doing every month.
right. But it's nice to have a plan ahead. The opposite side of that, because you could put a column in your spreadsheet of your estimated income for the projects you're doing and your estimated expenses. Just it does not requirement, but it's kind of a nice thing. There's another nice side of it. Again, budgets are a guideline. Maybe they may be exceeded, or you may not spend it all. You're doing basically the same monthly expenses, monthly budget that these reports I'm talking about. So
I think.
just to create, and I'll show you one of my budgets that I do for our club, but it's just the other benefit to a budget, and it's in the later slide, is that technically under most bylaws, constitutional bylaws, the treasurer cannot write a check without the approval of the board of directors or the club.
Correct.
So let's say you've got a reoccurring payment. We have a once a year we have insurance. We have the bond for the treasurer. If you have a budget and in your bylaws, it says in your bylaws that you can do this, the treasurer can write checks for pre-approved budgeted items. So you don't have to go to the club for every single check you got to write to be approved, or the board. So that's one of the advantages of having a budget, is if your bylaws are written that way, you can do that. Anyway, dues now. So international now, as of July, it will now be, they bill
$50.
twice a year. So as of July, it'll be $50 total for the year, 25 in July and 25 in January.
They're going to bill twice? Oh, that's right. They always have.
Yep, they always bill twice. They always bill in July. This part of people get confused because the district only bills once. So international bills twice, once in July and once in January. There are membership choices, multiple membership types that can change international pricing. For example, the family membership. So the family members that live in the same household, they got to live in the same household. The first member is oops, I forgot to change that when I changed my slideshow. We'll build the full $50, and any additional members. So let's say you got your wife's a lion and your kids living in your house and they're a lion. They will get half off international dues. There is a life membership. There's some qualifications for it. I don't remember all the details, but you got to have been in Lions for so long, be a certain age, and then I forget the amount, but then typically it's done as an honorarium by the club for someone. I forget the total amount, but then their dues are 0. For quite a while after the pandemic, they dropped the entrance fee, but now it's back. So you get a new member, you're going to get billed for $35. International bills you on a percentage of how many months are left. There's a spreadsheet or a document on international site that explains that. But they prorate them based on the time of the year that somebody joins. So if you put a new member on July 1, they're going to be billed the full $50. But if they go on in September, you bill less than that for them. So
it's $35. It's $35 per. If you have a family, it's still $35 for each individual.
correct. There's no family thing for the entrance fee part of it. District 37 only bills once a year in January. So in January, you're going to get two bills. You're going to get a bill from International and a bill from the district. These are all based on, by the way, the International is based on your membership in July. So your bill, your bill for whatever your members are in July. I hate to mention the word dropping people, but technically, if they're still on your books in July and then you drop them, you don't get any money back. So you want to kind of look at your membership. You want to try to keep, you obviously want to try to keep them, but you want to look at it before the end of before the end of December and before the end of June to avoid paying dues for people that you're gonna, you're gonna drop. So there is no family membership under the district, so it's $25 per member. There is no family membership, but there is a life membership. Don't have to pay for life members for the district either. You'll get an itemized bill if you haven't done this before. You'll get an itemized bill for both of them with all the stuff listed. So now the club dues. This is where you help folks. I thought there was another one. This is where you can help your administrative account. So you can charge anything you want or nothing, but you got to make sure you somehow fund that administrative account. So for example, our club total dues, we've been charging $84 a year total. So we, as of July now, will be $75 for the International and $25 for the district, so $75. So our club keeps that $9. Anyway, so that's your club has to decide that what exactly you want if your club portion.
We have a activity of birthday calendars.
Yep.
And we sell ads on that birthday calendar, and that money goes into admin.
Okay.
Just the ad money, not the money for the calendars.
Right. That probably is just fine. And again, if you're, some clubs want to keep dues down so they don't add anything. They find ways like that, like your calendar, like ours, to fund that account.
Well, and when we have so few that we've got to keep our membership down in order to have members.
Dues, you mean?
Or the dues, right. Yeah. The dues down. So we do pretty good on our calendar ads.
Great.
For our admin.
So here's the part about, you're going to get the bills, basically. Besides the dues twice a year, they'll bill you for the entrance fee as soon as as soon as you put the new member on, you'll get a bill every month. We'll look at that here in a little bit. Admin, again, you can payments for expenses related to fundraising or public projects. So, advertising is good, printing. You can buy raffle items and then raffle them off and pay for it with ad or activity money. So that's acceptable. So here's that comment on the payments may require a vote of the board or club if you don't have a board. Some clubs allow the treasurer to issue payments for budgeted items as long as they do not exceed the budget. So at my club, I have a budget, so there's various things that I'll get billed for that I still tell the club about it every month, but I have to go ask permission to write the checks. Okay, financial records. There's a lot of ways to do this. I know there are people that are treasurers that have a heavy background in accounting. Some people have access to QuickBooks, use QuickBooks. I actually use Quicken for my home stuff, so I use Quicken for my Lions stuff too. And it's just a fancier check register, but I can do budgets in it also. You can use whatever you want, spreadsheets. You can use the
We,
old fashioned ledger paper.
we just put ours on the computer,
Yep, that's
and we found Wave Accounting has a free version,
yep.
and that worked really well for us.
Yeah, there's several free software packages that work really well. So obviously record retention, just even though you're a nonprofit, there are certain requirements, and I don't know them off the top of my head, but typically it's 7 years to keep records with the IRS. And there it says bank statements, canceled checks, invoices, financial reports, tax returns, and other government filing. So, I just got a folder. I got a separate little file cabinet thing that I keep all my Lions stuff in. I'll let you read that. Okay. So
That's a correct statement. Yeah, it says 7 years.
pretend as long as you can. Anyway, there's a Lions portal has, is still done through the club dues and payments are done on the Lions portal. Monthly reports, you typically, if you've got a budget, you want to, a comparison to budget. Okay, we budgeted $3,000 for our raffle income, and right now we're at $2,700. So, things reporting on that type of thing. Balance sheet, profit and loss. I have a business degree, but I was never accountant. Most people, and I don't, most of the time I understand what they are for and what the purpose is on P&Ls and balance sheets. But most of it's confusing to a lot of people. It really doesn't provide information for most people unless they have a real background. So I typically don't include those in my monthly reports. I'll have a cash flow statement, but I'll have a budget report and a cash flow statement, and I'll send out a check register every so often to show just all the checks written for everybody. Excuse me. Annual audit. So, oops.
A helpful tool in your checking is if you instead of taking the regular checks, get what I call idiot checks that have a copy. That way you have a record of every transaction.
Yep. Annual audit. So it's always recommended, and I can't get my club to do it, to have it. And I'm not talking about paying an accountant for an audit. Those are very expensive. But really you should have a committee on your club, even a couple of people that you take all the records to every year, and they look at them and make sure everything looks kosher. Doesn't have to be in depth. It doesn't have to be any details. It's just you can get a group of people to take a glance at it, say, what was this check for? Or what was that check for? Or just to have a backup. Unfortunately, and one of the most common organizations that gets money lost or taken from are nonprofits. You hear it from all the time. Oh, Mary, the treasurer of the baseball, Little League baseball, absconded with was pocketed half the money, and so it's just a way to have a little uh, coverage of making sure everything's okay before it turns into a disaster. Um, and the tax filings. So I don't even present that to the club. I just keep it in my folder. I just tell them I did it. And we'll talk about that in a little bit of a detail here. Oh, there we go. We'll talk about that right now.
Okay.
So anyway, unfortunately, what has happened with a lot of Lions clubs is in handing it off from person to person and things like that, the filing of annual taxes has kind of fallen by the wayside. There's a lot of clubs that are not compliant anymore.
Okay. Yeah, that would be us.
And
That was
the biggest issue, it's a pain in the rear to get back into place,
Oh, yes, it is.
to get your status reinstalled. Unfortunately, typically I've never heard of them coming after a Lions club, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be it. Take care of it. Anyway, you can do this EIN search and find out, your EIM and your status of your club. So if you lost your nonprofit status, I mean, basically what that means, and technically they don't go after people, but technically means you're not a nonprofit anymore if you lost your status. And technically means they could turn around and come back at you and say, well, you got to pay taxes for the last 15 years that you haven't filed because you're a nonprofit. You're not a nonprofit anymore. You have to pay taxes. So it's a big deal. So yeah, it sounds like you guys are having that experience. Like when Columbia Falls just went through that last couple of years ago, they've discovered they were trying to do something, discovered they lost their status. And so then it's a challenge from what I hear.
But you can go
don't
right
know.
now. Go
We
ahead.
don't know what to do about it. We don't know how to fix it.
Well, you'll have you'll have to contact the IRS.
Yeah, we had an
Well-
accountant and he contacted the IRS, and the last thing we heard was that something about being able to go under the district, the
To
state.
contact the district or international or somebody for
Well-
help to get reinstated.
Yeah.
But
So
wait a second. You can also go to the Secretary of State. They're not charging until the 15th of April this year. They're not charging for you to.
right,
you
but
can work with
that's a different
Different deal.
So
Yeah.
my recommendation then is international has a legal department.
That was mentioned, the
You can-
International Legal Department.
So basically, we are our clubs all have what is called a 501c4 status, which
Yeah.
basically means that you're a nonprofit, but you're not tax deductible. And it is
Right.
because we are under the umbrella organization of Lions Club International.
And that's what we want to get back
Right.
in
But you
good
have a
step.
separate, you
Because
have
they
a-
won't accept our report
right,
every
because
year.
you've lost your status.
because we've lost it. Yes.
So I would call international and ask for the legal department. Typically these days, since the pandemic, you have to leave a message, but they will get back to you and they should be able to help you.
Okay.
Let me know if that doesn't work and we'll see what we can do.
That would be great because we need help with that. We
Okay.
we could file our own form if we could get back our status.
Yeah, well, it's to my understanding, Columbia Falls Club did it, and I could get somebody to what they did to do. They had to basically reapply. They had to do a bunch of paperwork to get their status back. But I would start with with international and the legal department.
Okay.
That's part of the reason we pay those dues to internationals because we do have help with international.
Help there. Yeah. Well, this is something that happened since I took over, but I've been it for years, but I had no idea that I was taking the taxes to an accountant every year and they weren't telling me that that form wasn't getting sent because before me, it was normal taxes.
Right.
So,
So, and now with the N990, if your club doesn't have more than $50,000 a year annual income, once you get
And we don't.
reinstated, pardon me.
And we don't.
we don't.
So once you get reinstated, you go to that 990 site
Yes.
and you answer two questions. The first question is, do you still exist? And you say yes. The second question is, did you make less than 50,000? And you say yes. And that's it. That's the whole.
And you're done. Yeah. And we could do that every year like we're supposed to if we could get back reinstated with them.
Right, just try it, see what happens.
No, they've tried it and it'll reject
they
it because
tried
they're
it.
not a.
Yeah, they don't recognize us.
Yeah, they don't recognize her. So call international and ask to talk to the legal department. And let me know, keep in touch with me and let me know what happens and we'll see what we can
Okay.
do to get you.
Okay. Yeah. Because I had no idea this was going on until the accountant I was using retired and a new accountant took over and went, oh, we have a problem here. We cannot
Yeah.
we cannot do this form for you. They won't accept it.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So anyway, what Tom was talking about is the other thing you have to do with it, you don't have to file taxes in the state of Montana, but there is a registration for nonprofit corporations. And it's a website. You can just do a Google search for it. It's a simple filing. Right now they've been waiving it's like a $25 a year fee to be registered, and that's separate from the IRS. So you should still be able to file that. It's under your EIN that you have for your club, but it's a pretty straightforward. Again, it's very straightforward. It has some questions about who your club officers are, who your board of directors is, and things. But you just go click a few buttons and file that every year. Lions are typically on a July to June schedule, but
Right.
the filing for the nonprofit organizations for the state runs on a calendar year. So you'd want to you'd file that sometime in January or February.
Okay. And what about the IRS? It comes due.
It'll become due normally on your cycle, whatever your files. Most clubs are July, their fiscal for July to June.
Because I was taking it in on a yearly basis, and then I realized, no, that's not our year.
Yep.
But it wasn't working anyway, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, handed off between treasurers and everything else, a lot of clubs have fallen by the wayside.
Yes.
And like I said, it's not a great thing if they ever enforced it because it could be kind of scary.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, let me know. I'll keep in touch and I'll send everybody an email within a few days here of this. I'll send my PowerPoint presentation and the links for the EIN and the N990 and the state registration sites and stuff. All right, just general good accounting practices. All money must be deposited. You really should try to do your deposits, within a day or two of when you receive them. Shouldn't be sitting on a bunch of money. Payments or disbursements, but should be paid by check. That's a little old because now, like the international, the easiest way to pay is by debit or credit card. Again, all disbursements are on the authority of board of directors. If you don't have one, then the club.
Yeah.
If receipts you get from somebody here, I bought this and that and this, it should be itemized. Just general principles. You retain the information. Treasurer should be bonded. That's really cheap. So our bond actually covers more than the treasurer. Our bond covers any financial malfeasance related to our club. So it would also cover things like if somebody got into access to the account or somebody ended up with a check that shouldn't have had one and did something. It's $100 a year. So I think it's well worthwhile for that. Again, the audits, and I'm not recommending go hire a CPA and have an audit, but have an audit two or three people from the club just to sit down for an hour and go through the records every year. I really want my club to do it. Not that they shouldn't trust me, but it drives me nuts that they won't do it. They just say, "You're okay. We don't need that." Like, Lions Club International. Has dictated in the bylaws. You cannot create any indebtedness. Can't get along. You should not be doing anything that, creates debt. If your club is typical like mine, we go through and we budget stuff and we get to the end of the year and we got a couple thousand left over. That's one of the reasons I like doing budgets is in my budgets, I roll over all the carryover money into the spending for next year.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't sit there and all of a sudden you got 10,000 in the checking account. And this is my two cents worth, but we're here to help people. We're not here to build up a big budget. And then of course, then you throw it into a CD because what do you do with it? To me, that's just the wrong approach. It's not what we're here for. But like I said, my 2 cents worth on that one.
We have to save to get enough to have a good project.
Yeah. I threw this in because there were most clubs I don't know if a club that doesn't do a raffle. There probably is one or two, but typically most clubs do some kind of raffle. The rules in Montana are pretty straightforward. You don't have to have a license for a raffle.
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't.
We do for our Calcutta. Any gambling, that's
Well,
gambling.
that's gambling. That's different. That's not a raffle.
Raffle isn't gambling?
Nope.
All right.
And under what they consider a raffle.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's fine.
But yeah, you're doing gambling. That's different. So raffle is not really considered gambling per se. So you don't have to have a license. You can do
Oh,
you do have to register if you want to sell tickets online. The trick to selling raffle tickets online is in Montana, you cannot accept credit cards for raffle tickets.
Okay.
You can accept debit cards, but I don't know how you would differentiate that.
Right.
That's the hard part. So you cannot, that's why you can't go, let's say you want to go buy a Montana cash raffle ticket. You can't buy it with a credit card. You have to pay with cash or check. So I don't have heard of anybody being prosecuted, but again, you don't really want to
test the waters.
No.
This is pulled right off the state website.
That's right. Okay.
And again, you can sell raffle tickets to outside people, but you got to make sure that you're abiding by the laws of wherever they buy them.
We might be treading on thin ice there.
Why?
We sell to hunters all the time.
Oh, well, yeah, but they buy them in town.
Again, this is probably not enforceable, but it's just some awareness.
We're not selling them in their state. They're only sold here locally,
Right.
but
But have people, that's what we've got. We ended up selling a lot of raffle tickets to Canadians because we're right now.
Oh.
Probably not going to happen this year much, but um,
Add 30%.
and again, I mean, these are the basics of the state laws. It's just something to be aware. Um, so there's nothing outrageous there. The biggest thing is that credit cards are not allowed to sell raffle tickets, and it does require if you sell them online to do a notification or registration. Just some interesting stuff. And these are just some other thoughts. Nowadays, the bank won't even open an account without a board of directors approval.
Right.
To make any change on your bank account nowadays, you have to take your minutes into the bank. So you get a new treasurer. To change the treasurer, you have to have minutes from your club that said Joe Blow is now our treasurer, and and the other side, we have dual signatures on all our checks.
So do we.
It's
We do too, and I can't do over a $10,000 deposit at the bank without signing my life away.
well, that's more of a federal. That's a federal drug. I used to work for a credit union, so
Okay.
reporting things on 10,000 is over 10,000.
Yeah.
Again, the thing about dual signatures that most things people don't realize is that technically banks don't have to adhere to that. They could take the check with signature, but like I said, we have dual signature spots on ours, so we just do them. Again, I recognize or insurance bonding. And back to that audit thing. These are just reviews of things. Again, all money that you're paying out as a treasurer basically needs to be approved by the authority of the board. However, if it's in your bylaws that you can pre-authorize paying expenses for fixed billings. And this is that one. A large bank balance does not necessarily mean a successful club. So before we do questions, I'm going to get out of this PowerPoint. So, and you've probably all seen the portal and been in it, but I just wanted to go through this for you. So, in case you haven't, I use a password manager here. So, you go to my club.
You've been in that.
And right up here is the club statements. Right up
remember I
here.
didn't get into this part of it.
Okay. Here's the club statements. This is where your bills from the year. They're also just still doing paper, but you can opt out of paper statements right here if you want. So we owe them some money because we had a new member. Yay! So you can pay now with PayPal or debit or credit card. It'll ask you what you want to pay. And it doesn't carry it over this. I think this is kind of the stupidest thing. So you got to remember what you're paying because it doesn't carry it over.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I've already set up our debit card. We have a debit card that's attached to our account, not a credit card. I've already set this up. You can do an add new and add you. You can also pay by a checking, You can pay directly from your checking account too.
Mm.
So you can
That works good.
so you can add it. You can do it, add new, and do a routing account number, bank.
That might be a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. And I had that in there before they changed systems, and then they changed systems. So, I haven't put the checking account back in. Anyway, oh, I do. This is the checking account. Has the bank account routing number.
Yep.
So, yay! That's how easy it is to make a payment through the portal now.
Well, that's
Then
good.
you have your receipt that you can keep in your
Yep,
in your file. Yeah,
I'm printing it right now. I just did a print.
great.
So it makes things really, really easy. You don't have to worry about mailing a check, paying for a stamp, all that kind of good stuff.
Well, it takes them forever to get back to you showing it was paid.
Oh yeah.
If you do it by paper, usually it's 2 days on your bank account. Shows up 2 or 3 days later.
Well,
With the electronic payment.
who not?
Oh,
Yeah. And who knows
Yeah.
how long it takes them to get a check to you or get a check.
well, I usually get another bill before they ever get it shown paid.
So that's the biggest thing as far as a treasurer on the portal is just this club statement. It doesn't show here immediately. It'll take a couple days to show here that I paid that, but
A couple of days is different than a month.
oh, and the other side, I don't know if you're depending on whether who does your I collect the due. Our treasurer or secretary used to collect dues and then give the money to me, and then I'd have to keep track of everything. And I just said, this is crazy. I'm just going to start. I do the due statement and I collect the money, and just made it simpler. And in that case, I also, because our secretary is a little computer questionable sometimes, I also do the membership cards. So in case you do that, it's under club actions. So again, I went to my club, then I went over here to club actions, and there's the membership cards. Pretty straightforward. If I want to print them all, collect all. These are the paper sizes. Of course, we're in the United States, so we're going to use. You can buy. They're basically business card stock. So there's one with 10. The 10 is with 10 cards per page, and the other is to 8 cards per page. You can do either. Make sure that you change the good standing date till the end of the. So for this year, that would be
June 30th.
end of June.
Yeah.
What it does is it basically puts it into a PDF. So this
So
is
we can make those for our club members, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just got to get that card stuff.
yeah. So you can just buy the cards that card stock of it's just business card stock. And it basically what it did is created a PDF file that I
We can do
downloaded.
that right on the Lions portal. Okay.
So anyway, that's a responsibility of yours and your club. That's how you do that. Basically, the biggest things that a treasurer has to do on the portal. You can also look at your own stuff here too. Your My Membership tells you who you are, address.
Mm.
But it's kind of an odd deal. You can't change most of your personal information. Your secretary has to do that.
Right. And she's got us all in there.
So anyway, that's primarily the function, the portal functions that a treasurer would use. Any questions on that?
No, Luann's pretty computer savvy with the portal.
I did want to show you one more thing here. One of the ways the Member Resource Center on Lions is you can go to the Member Resource Center. So when you go to the leader tab and go down to club treasurer, there's a lot of information. Standard constitutional bylaws. Here's the best practice. Here's where some of that stuff came from that was in my presentation for best practices and the ebook. So it's basically everything treasurer book in a form of what your job duties are, what your things like that. And it's got a lot of links. So there's a Lions Learning Center that was on the portal that has a whole section on treasurer. A lot of my slides are taken from that. But again, these have a ton of links on the, here's a portal link, here's a anyway, just that's some of the resources available to you guys. It's pretty amazing on the stuff that's out there. All right. Any questions, comments, anything that? All right. Well, you guys have a good evening and good weekend and take care.
You too.
You too.
Thank you very much.
Night.
See you guys.